we were valued at around $3 billion. Even the founder used to check if any lead is dropped. He used to make a phone call to prospect and check, hey, what kind of pain point you did not have. So there was always a fear in a sales mind that every lead is an opportunity to be closed. And for marketing, it was like your lead can be disqualified. So ensure that it goes to SQL state. So marketing was gold at SQL level, and sales was gold from SQL to closed won.
Hi guys, hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to the event. Especially shout out to all the online participants. I'm sure you guys are on time. If you guys saw the room, your room is filling in. But we're in all our events, we like to start on time, so we'll start on time. This event was conceptualized after discussions with our founders. We saw that a lot of founders struggle with GTM online. GTM in the US markets, SaaS companies don't have enough information in India about how to set up teams, how to hire, who are the first hires, what to prioritize, when to do push the pedal on marketing, when to do outbound, when to do inbound. That is the intent of discussion for all of the sessions today. We have two great speakers. First, we have Avinash from Sprouts.ai. Sprouts.ai is an Accel portfolio company. And I'll let Avinash talk more about Sprouts. But in short, they help you set up your entire marketing function. They help you make it a lot more effective. And they have a lot of tips and tricks and hacks which can help you. So I'm really looking forward to that. Second session is by Deepak. Deepak is the founder of Slintel, which got acquired by 6sense, which is an ABM platform. And Deepak and I go a long way. I invested in Deepak's company, and I got to learn a lot from their success. They are a rocket ship. Within a short span of 1 year, they grew 10x, 12x, 18x, 25x. So my bad. So it was a rocket ship, and again, they were in the perfect place. So I think it will be great to learn from him as well about those things. And after that, we'll do a panel discussion where we'll really take up questions which from the audience, as well as whatever the audience have already sent us beforehand while registering. So that's the setup for today. With that, I'd like to call upon stage Avinash to take us forward.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope people who have joined online are able to hear me right. I'm Avinash, I'm co-founder at Sprouts. We are an AI-powered GTM intelligence platform. A quick intro on my side. Started my career with a company called Idea Cellular, which was into business to consumer side. Worked there for 7 years. Post that, I joined this company called Highradius, which is a fintech SaaS unicorn headquartered in Houston, Texas. Luckily, I joined at a time when they were at close to 30 million of ARR, and for that they took close to like 13 to 14 years to reach there. Was the first account-based marketing hire. Happened to build teams in US, in Europe, and in India to make that global ABM function ready. Seen the journey of 30 million to 165 million in 3 years time. So a lot of learnings there in terms of what playbooks works well, what kind of hiring you should do, what should be a GTM motion. So today I'm going to share a lot of my learnings right from that journey. Post that, I joined this company called Plum, which is an insurtech startup, Bangalore headquartered, Tiger and Sequoia funded. Was heading marketing there. Again, helped them grow 8x in 13 months time. So, but it was purely focusing on the India market. But fulfilling ride, I would say, like a lot of learnings in terms of how you should set up your GTM motion. What are those small nitty-gritties that you should take care of to make sure that you are successful. Two requests I have today. One is please ask questions. I'm a firm believer of making sessions more interactive and knowing what struggles you are having in terms of your GTM motion, and would love to answer if I can answer any of those questions. So let's make it a very interactive session. I'm pretty sure we can't cover everything in 30 minutes because that's a very small window to cover a GTM motion, but would love to like interact with you guys and understand what challenges you are facing. Does that sound good? All right. Okay. I'll skip agenda, but broadly, types of GTM motion. One is sales led and one is self serve. Obviously there are like multiple ways to define it, but broadly speaking, sales led is mostly you have two motions, which is outbound and inbound. Outbound is nothing but you identify set of accounts which are in your ICP persona, you target them with a precise messaging and everything. Inbound is you put lot of your marketing muscle in organic search keywords, ads and everything, and build that inbound engine. Self-serve is again divided into PLG and community. PLG is, hey, somebody, you draw traffic onto the website. There are a lot of freemium models. They experience your product and eventually they convert into a paying customers, right? And community led is one classy example is Monday.com. Not sure if you guys have heard of it. You should study about their GTM motion if you want to build community led GTM strategies, right? Like Monday.com has done really good. I think my personal favorite is Slack as well. Slack has also done like really cool stuff on communities led GTM motion. So these are the two motions. Mostly, if you are having a low ACV product or you are selling into individuals, that is when you get into self-serve kind of a model. And if you have a high ACV, for example, your ACV is at 20,000 and above, inbound and outbound is a best way to start, right? Any questions? All right. Cool. Uh, so building efficient outbound B2B GTM motion is tough, right? Like I have faced it myself. I think the learnings has been with lot of failures. Uh, so this is how we look at the entire life cycle of a GTM motion, right? Like for outbound piece. The first is how do you define an ideal customer profile, right? So anyone here, let's say, sir, you, uh, what are you building? Can you just quickly give a quick 30 seconds brief about what you're building? How are you defining your ICP?
Yes. So in terms of defining the ICP, basically, it kind of goes through its own round of iterations and all. But in terms of uh, clearly sort of defining in terms of how the demographics should kind of look like, what sort of technology stack they should be using. Basically, breaking it down to as much granular level as possible, so that you are able to kind of reduce it to a more focused area. That's one part of it. And second is obviously in terms of what sort of pain points they kind of encounter in their day-to-day lives. What are the bypass which you are kind of targeting, things like those.
Got it. Got it. I think you have done already a decent job. So let me give you two examples, two real life examples uh, from my two stints, one at Highradius and one at Plum, right? At Highradius, we have done amazing in US market. I was mandated to, lead European region and generate demand from that. We tried for 3 months, 6 months. We have failed. We were not getting the desired results which we wanted to. Uh, what we did, I think one mistake we did there was we have not focused a lot of time on ICP. We just went after normal variables like companies which are $1 billion and above revenue. They are coming from, let's say, XYZ kind of industries, and they have X amount of employees, like basic filters we applied. We tried, luckily for us, money was not a problem. We have thrown a lot of money on ads and everything, but results were very suboptimal. That is when we took a step back. We studied what kind of website traffic is coming, what kind of people have filled the form. We studied like whatever we were around 500,000 in revenue only from Europe region. We studied whatever customers we had, why they were opting for solutions like Highradius. By the way, Highradius sells into Office of CFO. And so Office of CFO, right? Like Office of CFO has multiple departments. There is AR department, account payables department, XYZ, like record to report, procure to pay. These are the departments of order, like they report into CFO. Highradius was just automating order to cash department. We figured out in Europe, if any company is hiring for program director of digital transformation, right? Usually what happens is if let's say a company is hiring for these kind of roles, program director of digital transformation, that is where some active initiative is going on. And this particular person reports into CFO and CIO both, right? We had a list of close to 2,300 odd accounts in Europe. We applied this filter, which is companies which are hiring for program director of digital transformation or hired for digital transformation guys in last 6 months. Our list became to almost around 300 companies. We just focused for a year for these 300 companies. We went from 0 to 6 million that year. So the whole idea is, let's say in US, there are 200K companies. Which are those 500 companies will buy a solution which you want to sell? Which are those 500 companies which have problem which you're solving for? If that happens, that is when rubber meets the road and you get like instant responses and lot of demand, right? So one of the most important part which I learned was nailing that ICP right. Second example might not be relevant for US GTM, but there is when I joined Plum, which is an insurtech startup, they sell into like startups like SaaS, insurance, right? Corporate benefit or corporate insurance. Founder was like, hey, you know what? Any company which is funded, just reach out to them. There are 40,000 funded startups in India. Venture backed are 14,000, but angel backed, accelerator backed, government backed. There are like 40,000 startups. Who are those 500 who are looking to buy right? We did a manual study, figured out what are those advanced variables. We have seen any company which is founded after 2020, the moment they hit 15 employees, T plus 20 days, if a campaign goes out, the response rate is like 60% more, right? And all of a sudden, we just focus on those 500, 600 accounts to get those results. So that was a very important, and we got tailwind of responses, right? Like we went from almost like 50, 60 opportunities to 400 opportunities in 2 months time. That was like tailwind, literally. Then the another one was which company is hiring for, let's say, compensation and benefit managers, right? That becomes a very important piece. Why do you want to see? It's a tech platform. It's a new age product. Why will a typical CHRO buy a solution like Plum, right? When they are comfortable with, let's say, new Indias of the world, right? So that is where I think is the first step, which has helped me at least in setting up that GTM motion right from the day one. So any questions onto that? Okay, right. So the first part is ICP. The second one is once the ICP is defined, how do you find the right company and right people in the target account? Right now there are like multiple database providers there, like Apollo, ZoomInfo, Crunchbase. Deepak has built an amazing company called Slintel. It was again into a database and a lot of intelligence, right? So what next is choose the right database provider which suits your bill. For example, if you want to do targeting around funding related data, I think Crunchbase is a decent database provider to go after. Industry tagging is really good in ZoomInfo. Apollo has got very good reach in terms of LinkedIn kind of a profiles and everything. There is a database provider called Intercrately that works on cloud related data. If you are building a healthcare startup, Definitive Healthcare is a really good database provider, right? There is one for media side. I'm not able to recollect the name. So choose the database provider which fits your ICP rather than just going after Apollo, ZoomInfo, or Crunchbase. Right? That's the second part, because if you do not have right data, I'm sure you will have a hard time generating lot of leads or demand or setting up that GTM motion. I think you will fail at the TAM level, like what is the target addressable market? You will unable to figure that out, right? That's the second part. The third part is how to check if they are looking to buy right now, right? So this is something which is called as intent, right? I will not complicate it much, but intent is broadly classified into 3 categories, right? It is first party intent. Think of it this way. Anyone here in the group have website traffic of more than 5,000? Anyone? 5,000 monthly website visitors? Or anyone just know that what is their website traffic? Yeah. How much is your website traffic? Sorry? 3K per month, which is 90K per month, which is awesome. We should definitely connect, like what you are doing for that. 3K per month. Oh, I thought per day. So 3K per month. So, sorry, I did not get your name. Ashutosh. So, Ashutosh, tell me one thing. What are you doing for your website visitors today?
So we recently started doing SEO,
Okay,
basically both technical as well as content.
sure.
Plus studied our ICP better, trying to do some experiments on what they read, what is their habit,
Hmm.
what are the kind of content that our competitors in the space are publishing,
Okay,
in the industry leaders are publishing, and so on.
got it.
So that is generating some traffic as of now.
Right. So, traffic generation, I think you have just started, and
Yeah, very
eventually it's going to only go up.
Yeah.
But once somebody is visiting your website, I'm pretty sure you must not be getting more than 50 form fills.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
right? So what is happening to those another 2,900 people who are visiting your website, right? So there are tools in the market like Clearbit or other tools. You can de-anonymize the website visitors in form of companies, right? Map it to your ICP and do an outbound to them. It's a like a basic hack, right? You can apply that. For example, if you have 3,000 website visitors, I'm pretty sure there will be 100, 150 website visitors who might be seeing your pricing page or contact us page, but not filling out a form. Tell me, why will you not reach out to them,
Yeah, would want to definitely reach out.
right? So that is where a first party intent tools can be very helpful, right? One of them is Clearbit. Six Sense also does it. It de-anonymizes. It's slightly on the expensive side. Uh, so that is called as first party intent. Then comes the second party intent. Second party intent is if anyone is comparing your products on sites like G2, Capterra, or Radius, right? Uh, I think definitely you should reach out to them. Okay. How you can get that data? You can subscribe to those tools, or you can figure out a way, and that is where you can, figure out who is comparing your sites, and who are those customers who are checking out your competitors as well, and you can start reaching out to them. The third is third party intent. Third party intent is nothing but, uh, as you mentioned, Ashutosh, right? Like you're doing a lot of work on SEO side. Can you give me a couple of keywords? Tell me a couple of keywords which are very relevant for you.
Say knowledge management is.
What are you building, by the way?
So we are building an AI-powered workforce education tool,
Okay,
typically targeted at sales training, L&D, as well as partner training use cases.
got it. So your typical buyers are L&D and sales teams.
Yes.
And uh, what does your prospect search for when they look for solution like yours on Google, let's say?
Yeah, they would typically use knowledge management or best LMS or best training
Knowledge
solution.
management, right? Like
Yeah,
for the
something
sake
like
of
that.
example, knowledge management is a tool. Now tell me, if you have a capability to figure out which all B2B companies are searching for knowledge management, why will you not reach out to them, right? So that is what you can get from solutions like Bambora, and there are many other intent platforms as well, right? I've just name dropped a few. So there are many other intent platforms. So there are capabilities to figure out what kind of keywords are being searched by what kind of companies, right? So that is when you can get these buying signals, right? So first step is, please spend a lot of time on defining ICP, because that if you go wrong there, I think whatever lead is coming into the funnel, it is dead on arrival. On day one, it's dead, right? They are going to waste your time, waste your bandwidth, and eventually not buy. So define your ICP right, get the right database so that you can do a better outreach. Third one, marry this lot of buying signals: first party, third party, second party intent, whichever is available. I think if you are starting up, it's very easy. Like Apollo kind of a solution gives Bambora plus database, right? You start with that, right? So that is intent. Once that is done, you can, what's the best way to reach out to them? That is where I'm pretty sure you must have heard of platforms like HubSpot, Outreach, Salesloft. You can create cohorts and start reaching out to them. right? There are multiple ways out there how to do warm-ups and everything so that your delivery rates are much better. But choosing a right campaign manager can help you in generating more and more leads. Any questions? I'll take a pause, and if anyone have any questions, happy to take them.
So I had a question.
Sure.
So you talked about, in general, what worked out for companies that you worked with, right? In terms of defining the ICP, right? Especially. So we have done some experiments on that front, but I would like to know, from your point of view, what is the timeline, and can you, go a little deeper into how you construct these experiments, and what's the timeline that you keep? Because for a startup, early stage startup, typically it is very important to focus your time in the right direction. So how do we, structure those experiments and those design experiments for testing which is the right ICP, or how do we know that this is it, that we have found it?
Right. So I think the starting point for that, Ashutosh, would be please create a document for why do you think that this customer is going to buy us, right? Are you solving their pain point? Number one. Are you bringing some kind of efficiency in their processes? Like, are you, getting their cost down? Why they will buy you, right? If that is clear, right, then figure out what kind of companies might be looking for, might be having these kind of problems, right? So first identifying like what are you solving and mapping that problems to this timeline. I would say start with this document, basic document. Start doing a lot of A, B, C, D, whatever experiments you want to do, because only after doing 5 to 7 kind of experiments, right, you will figure out, okay, this kind of persona is really, really valuable. I'll give you one more example. I was talking to one company in the US. They needed some help on, so they're a travel and expense management company, by the way, right? They said, so they optimize a lot of, let's say I'm a person, I'm traveling to India. You can book tickets, I can book hotel tickets, travel and expense, like reimbursement, everything. So they are like AI powered travel expense management. They want to sell into, they have built an enterprise grade product, by the way. Very solid founders, this thing. They tried for 6 months, they were not getting results, right? They got some 15-20 customers, but they were unable to scale. I said, let's deep dive into your customers and everything. I said, what's your ICP? Their ICP was any company which 5,000 employees, and let's say this falls under this industry because they feel that these industries are more prone to travel a lot, consulting and all that stuff. And let's say they have some remote job location. That is our ICP. We studied the 20 customers. We figured out that out of the 20 customers, 13 customers had more than 100 people in sales. It's a no-brainer. Like, see, what salespeople tend to travel. Salespeople tend to, do a lot of this travel and expense management. We figured out how many companies have more than 100 or 50 people in sales, right? And send that HR, hey, you have a large sales team. I'm pretty sure they must be spending X amount of dollars. We can get it down to this, and this. They started getting a lot of responses after that. So mining that, and that took 6 months to them. So it is no right answer to that. Unfortunately, I do not have that answer. But I think you just keep on doing a lot of experimentations and keep an eye of companies who is having this pain point. The moment you figure out who is having this pain point, right, I think the problem is solved. Yeah.
Can we also use the conversion metric as a proxy to saying, you found your ICP? For example, let's say if you've divided your potential ICPs into multiple buckets and you're sending out mails after all the databases and everything. Is there any like one way to obviously see is which is giving you more conversion, etc. But where do we stop? Like, do we still keep digging, or in your experience, did you see like 100 mails sent out? If you're actually getting response from 10 people or 15 people, that's actually a decent bucket to start with.
Right. I think there are multiple answers to it, but the short answer is if any cohort is giving you more conversions, like they are becoming your customers, right? That is where you have nailed your ICP. for example, as I was mentioning, right, like more than 100 employees in sales team. If you're the moment you're pitching to such companies and they are converting faster, that means that ICP is working for you, right? uh, I think sending out emails, pushing ads, these all are input KPIs. You have to definitely do it, but this will only help you to go to a place where you know that okay, my ICP is working well or not, right? So it's a if you are starting right now, and if you are very like if you already understand this ICP works well, I think you are in a very good shape, right? But if not, you have to do a lot of those A/B experiments to figure out what is the right ICP which is going to work. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Any suggestions on email warm-up tools?
Yeah. So there are many. Instantly is one. So for email warm-up, I'll tell you. There are a couple of things. One is please do not use your main company domain. For example, sprouts.ai is our main company domain. I would never use sprouts.ai for email campaigns. I would use getsprouts.ai or connectsprouts.ai. I'll create multiple domains and I will do an outreach from them. That is number one. Number two, there are multiple configurations on the Google side, which is DKIM, SPF, DMARC, right? You have to configure these records very well so that your listing on Google, your domain health on Google is intact. That's number two. Number three, sometimes what happens is now Google has become very sharp. Google and Outlook both are very sharp in terms of identifying that who is spamming or who is sending mass emails. So ensure whatever emails you are uploading on Campaign Manager when you send an outreach, those are valid email. Why your domain reputation goes for a toss? There are two to three reasons. Number one is because when you run a campaign, you had lot of bounce rates, right? So keep bounce rates less than 3%. That is recommended, right? Number two, and you can keep that less than 3% or less than percent, like much lesser is better. The moment you keep it less bounce rates, right, in the campaign, that is when your email delivery rate will also be higher, and that you can do by sending outreach to right email IDs. So you have to use validation tools like Never Bounce, Email Verifier. There are multiple other tools out there. So you have to use those tools and validate it, your emails, before sending an outreach. That's number one. And number two is ensure that you don't send mass outreaches, right? More than 100 emails, I think it's a big no. You will end up blocking your domains, and that will give you a very bad reputation on your domain.
Second question is, what's a better approach? Email outbound to our ICP or an SDR based approach?
I think mix of both. First, refine an ICP, then create a cadence. Okay, refine an ICP. If I was an SDR, I would do it this way. I will spend a lot of time on ICP, number one. Number two, I will see these ICP profiles where they are, like, for example, are they really active on LinkedIn? If they're active on LinkedIn, I would like to send a connection request first to them. And once they are connected, I will send a message on LinkedIn followed by an email. By the way, what we have seen at Sprouts, we have close to 35 odd customers. Any company or any prospect which opens emails more than 5 times, in next 24 hours, if you make a phone call to them, everyone is getting 30% response rate, right? So I would do this kind of approach rather than picking up a phone and spamming them saying that, hey, I'm building this cool solution, why don't you talk to us? I would really give them some brief about what we are building. If this excites them, they do some activity. Either they will click on an email, or they will visit our website, right? Or they start following us on LinkedIn, right? And then maybe we can start doing a phone calls to them.
Yeah, the second question is, at what stage should somebody go into an SDR team-based outreach, like full-fledged?
I think once your product is ready and you're ready to sell, I think SDR team should be built sooner the better. But one caveat there is, are you selling to companies which have like higher ACVs is something which you have to keep in mind, because let's say a solution like, I'm not sure how many of you use Apollo, right? Apollo doesn't have a SDR function. They are like PLG led, self-serve freemium kind of a model. Not sure how many use Calendly, right? Calendly will not have an SDR team. So if you are having a low ticket item, right, where you have to, where your GTM motion will be purely inbound led, that is where SDRs will be, or you can have a pre-sales team only to qualify those leads, right? But if you want to build an outbound muscle, your ACV should be around 10 to 15,000 and upside, and then just keep on building that engine. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think we have covered this slide. Any questions here? Yeah.
Beginning, would you over-index on volume and compromise on quality of your emails and outreach, or would you go a low volume but hyper-personalized emails?
I would, means my submission, I will over-index on spending time on refining SEO. I'll spend 15 days. It's okay, right? Like if after 2 months, if I do my first outreach, it will not hurt me. I would still spend those 15-20 days spending on that doc. Why will my customer buy a solution what I'm building? Am I doing better integrations? Am I solving any of their pain point in terms of cost or seamlessness? I'm making them faster, basically faster, better, cheaper, right? Like what am I doing to them, right? I will identify that, and I will identify which kind of companies might have that. Talk to 10-15 companies, get that hypothesis right, then build a TAM, and then do an outreach. If it requires large volume, do large volume.
I am building a data analytics product.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a vertical agnostic. So especially when we talk about outbound for a product like this, which has different meaning for different business user across different verticals.
Right.
Even if, say, for example, I'm solving for a procurement manager, the need of that would be much pronounced in some industries, whereas in other it won't be.
Yeah.
How to go about an email campaign for that, and how do you actually boil down to an ICP there? Primarily when you know that your current clienteles are all over the place anyways, when there were the initial reach out, right? So which is spray and pray that earlier happened. You have those clients and they all are happy across all the verticals. So you know that you are solving the problems across vertical, across functions. How do you go about doing outbound when you know that founder reach out will not scale?
Right. So quick question there. How are you defining today your ICP?
Anyone who has realized the size of the company, who has realized that Accel won't work for them, right? And they want to move to and set up a data infrastructure, is the company that we would want to go for, right? Because that is a direct fitment for our product.
Understood. So would you, so will companies buy your solution first, or they hire people first?
It's a no code, so they can directly buy our product.
Right. So how are you thinking about identifying that these companies have Accel or anything? Who uses this?
Right. So that is exactly where I'm planning to build my outbound, and I'm struggling, right? That how do I figure it out? Because this is a very nuanced thing, right? That this is the kind of company, and that again, as I said, the analytical maturity also is very industry specific. Correct. In manufacturing, a very big sized company could be analytically immature as compared to something like BFSI. Right. That is where it becomes really struggle. So just wanted to understand that if your target group is spread across different verticals, and there is the need which you are solving for, and you have happy customers, do you let them go and then just focus on one, knowing that you are solving for that? How do you go about it? That is where the struggle.
I'll give you one example. Okay, I'm not sure if this will exactly correlate to what pain you have. Do you understand of GraphQL? Right. So worked with one GraphQL founder, right? So what happened was, again, the same thing. Hey, whenever the data structures becomes very complex, that is when they use GraphQL, right? So he got initial 8-10 customers through references and everything, but after that scale became a challenge, because he was going after companies where they have like GraphQL kind of a personas already there, or API kind of a personas already there. But when we studied deeper, we spent like 2 months onto that. We studied deeper, we figured out if any company is using endpoint API, I don't know what does mean. If any company is using endpoint API for more than 2 years and the data engineering teams are growing faster, that kind of companies will be buying solutions like GraphQL as a service. So again, right, the question still remains at your end in terms of why will analytics somebody will buy, what is happening in their company that they will look for solution like yours. You
Fair enough, but then how would you get that persona? Like you can't find that kind of companies at Apollo, right?
Apollo, ZoomInfo, Crunchbase, everywhere it's available.
The data engineering companies is
Yeah, like not data engineering companies, data engineering team size, or you can do a simple lookup on LinkedIn as well to start with, right? So I think all of these companies, ZoomInfo, Apollo, and Crunchbase, everyone has these filters. Crunchbase will not have. ZoomInfo, Apollo, I'm pretty sure they have it.
thanks.
Right, so I think the best way to think at it is, okay, endpoint, more than 2 years, the data engineering team was just 2 people, now they have become 10 people. Let's reach out to them, you will get an amazing response rate. Cool. I will move on. Inbound channels, again, right, like very complex, but how you can power a lot of outbound motions to the inbound channels. The one we have already covered, which is if anyone is coming on your website, spending time, I think you can de-anonymize them and map it with your ICP profiles, enrich using multiple databases, and at a click of a button, you can start sending out a campaigns to them. This is a very good one thing which is like a no-brainer you can do on day one, because already there is a website traffic, you can encash on that. There are tools like Website and 6sense are available in Clearbit and 6sense, which are available in the market. You can start opting for them. The second piece is LinkedIn activities. I will give you one example which worked really well so that you can correlate it better. Again from Highradius. They sell to the office of CFO, and usually our buyer personas were credit managers, collection managers, invoicing managers, and everything. So on LinkedIn, there are groups like AFP, which is Associations of Finance Professionals, NACM, National Associations of Credit Managers. Simple, just do a simple query on LinkedIn saying that, let's say, Ashutosh is building for DevOps, right? Sales, right? Like sales, analytics, or any kind of groups. You will figure out there are like multiple groups. Study those groups, join them, and whoever is actively participating them, right? Reach out to them, right? So we have done a lot of outreach, which has worked amazingly well for one community called NACM, National Associations for Credit Managers. So this community was there on LinkedIn, where all the community, all the credit managers of US were very active participants there. So we joined this group, we manually scraped this group, figured out their email ID, did an outbound in a brutal way. We got a lot of responses. So there is a lot of community data which is available there, which you can reach out, which are relevant. Right? The third one is events and webinars. If you are going to events, I think one thing which has worked really well is figure out attendee data beforehand. There are a lot of database providers out there, or on LinkedIn. If you go and click saying that, hey, I'm also attending this event, you can get list of those attendees. Start reaching out to them. It's a low cost approach, and you can start booking meetings even before getting into the events as well. Right, so this is one more very good hack for you to be more productive, and especially when you. So I'll give you one example. I was in SaaSter last year September. Did this activity. So SaaSter is for early stage, mid stage SaaS companies and B2B companies. They showcase their products and everything. It's a 3-day event. I got hold of close to 7,000 attendee list, mapped it with ICP. I got close to 500, 600 people. I sent a simple email saying that, hey, you know what? Looks like you're building really cool stuff. I'm a founder at Sprouts. Would love to catch up and exchange notes. I got 40 meetings. Obviously, 50% did not turn up. That's a different challenge. But 20 productive meetings I did with my right ICP because I did pre-planning. So this is something which you should definitely encash if you are going into events and everything. All right. So we have 5 minutes. I will quickly cover the remaining slides. What is ICP? I've broadly covered it, so I will skip it. Right? Any prospect account having a pain point which your company could solve is an ICP. In a very simple layman terms is what we are defined. How to go about defining ICP? There are two ways. Usually 90% of companies which I have came across, they just work on standard filters. Right? Standard filters are, hey, what industry, what employee size, what revenue size, and what location. Right? But the thing is, you should definitely work on standard filters and advanced filters. Advanced filters are nothing but what is their website traffic, right? What is their recruitment intel? What is their competitive landscape? What kind of existing integrations are there? Right? For example, for Sprouts, I'll give you one example. We integrate with HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive. So any company which is not using these three solutions, right? We would not like to target them first, right? So think of this advanced filters as an ICP framework, standard filters and advanced filters. This will really help you to narrow down on ICP. What are your advanced filters, right? What are those advanced filters that companies will, reply to your email? Okay. I did one example for one of the company called Fiber, right? So they created dynamic landing pages for performance marketing teams, right? So standard filters. Ankur is a dear friend as well, right? So we were talking about, right? So standard filters are US and Europe, performance marketing team, industry, management level, and revenue. So, but advanced filter for them is companies which are using Webflow, Unbounce, Google Optimize, right? Companies which have at least performance team of more than 2 people, right? They have a website traffic of 30,000 and above in a month. You can get this data, by the way, right? Like it's very easy to get it. Okay. Ad expenditure, Google Ads is 30K per month. Keywords, which is like keyword density is more than 100. Negative or exclusion criteria are industry exclusions for company hosting marketplaces. So that can be, I really don't want to confuse you guys, but the whole idea is just don't stick to standard filters, because standard filters is 80% of time you will get leads which are junk. Advanced filters is where at least if you are 50% optimized on advanced filters, right, you will have meaningful conversations with people. So it might be available in Apollo sometimes, or you have to map with some other databases. For example, I'll tell you, tech stack might be available, or you can check out this tool called BuiltWith. It will be available there, might be. Performance team greater than 2, I think it's available on Apollo. Website traffic 30,000 per month. It is available in SEMrush or in Crunchbase. Crunchbase has this integration, so that is available there, right? Ad expenditure, I think it's available in ZoomInfo, like marketing spends, monthly marketing spends. So you can get this data. The thing is, don't try to get all of this data on day one, right? If you think that, okay, I would do, if I was you, right, I would do, okay, if I am building Fiber, I will not reach out to a company which doesn't have a performance marketing team, right? Because that is my typical buyer. So I'll start with that and then I will improvise on things, right? Intent we have already covered. Intent frameworks, first, second, and third party. I think I'll skip this. Basically, we did one example, like real example, so that you can correlate it much better. So what we have done for this company called Fiber, right? Again, I will again say that they are they create custom landing pages for performance marketing team, right? So if you click on an ad, they create a custom landing pages on that this thing. So for them, we studied their their landing pages and their competitor landing pages, and these were the intent topics. Now think of it this way, right? Like site personalization, there are 2900 companies which are searching for site personalization, website tagging, and everything. So this is something which you can also do, pretty much available now. Apollo also have it. They have partnered with Bambora. You can also figure out the keywords and you can see what keywords are relevant to you, and you can start doing an outreach. But one piece of advice, you will not get results there. Let me tell you, don't think that only because of intent you will get a lot of results, but intent and ICP might give a very good results. Okay. Few learnings. I think I'll share this presentation with everyone. Uh, uh, how the motions can be defined, what channels really worked well, what kind of content categories, tofu, mofu, bofu. I've created this framework, uh, which can be useful, which can be handy. This is not like one size fits all kind of thing. You have to customize it based on your needs. But this is just a very broad level framework. For example, if your customer is an enterprise customer where the revenue is 750 million and above, and the typical ACVs are 200K and above, the motion is sales led. The channels of outreach are one-on-one in-mail events and one-on-one snail mails. Right? You can create tofu contents, which is like infographic, blog, case studies, value prop videos. Bofu content can be peer benchmarking reports. By the way, this has worked really well, uh, especially in the enterprise selling criteria, right? If you have one enterprise customer and you have helped improve their KPIs in some way or the other, create a benchmarking report around that and send it to their competitors without naming them, right? Because that is where, if so by the way, if anybody is helping me improve my KPIs, I would definitely go and buy this solution, right? So this is one framework. This is just a broad level framework. It will be customized based on your needs and everything, but I think this can help you in defining the motion, what channels you should go after, and when you're thinking about building content, tofu, mofu, bofu, what are the content elements you can build around it? That's it, team. Hope you found it useful, and if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn and we can connect. All right, cool.
Thanks, Avinash. Thanks for that talk. It was really insightful. I think we have a bunch of questions online as well, which we'll take up in the panel discussion. With that, I'll hand it over to Deepak. Deepak, again, Deepak is a dear friend. We worked together 3, 4 years, 5 years now, and so I met Deepak when they had been 2 years running into Slintel, and then they were just starting to take off. I'm very lucky that I got to partner with them. They were our investment in sales tech, and all of you folks who are thinking what better alternative to Zoom Info, Slintel is a great alternative, now part of Sixth Sense, and and Deepak is now sold his company. So all the founders here, if you want tips, how to sell, how to negotiate, and he was very good at negotiating with investors as well, and what all. He's a great guy to listen to as well. So Deepak, all yours.
Cool. Thanks, Prayank. Prayank has known me for a few years, and Prayank, we've been very lucky to partner together. I think Prayank said we give 25x in 1 year. I just corrected it was 2 years. But we saw I was a first-time entrepreneur. Initially, it was super difficult for us to raise funding. We had to get to product market fit, do founder-led sales and all of that. And then the last 2 years, we saw a rush of revenue, and then acquisition happened. So I'm going to talk about learnings from my journey. I'm not going to be very prescriptive here because I'm just listening to all of you. Many of you have different kinds of companies and different kinds of problems. So what I'm showing, what worked for us may not work for you guys. Just caveat there. So quick background about myself, right, and Slintel. So I was a founder. My first time company. We went full time into this in 2018. The acquisition happened mid 2021. So it was a very quick journey. I scaled Slintel from 0 to 5 million. And I was the go-to-market founder. So I set up the sales, marketing, customer success, and all of that. And then in 6sense, when they acquired us, they were at 70 million ARR. Now they're at 200 million plus. So that part of the journey I've seen from the sidelines, right? I've been heading product in a certain category in 6sense. So when Prayank asked me to speak, like I live in the US, I was here for a month, and Prayank caught me and he said, "Hey, you have to come and speak on this." I was actually trying to refresh my memory, right? Like it's been a while since I've done sales, customer success, all of that, and things have changed as well. So I'll talk to you about what worked in Slintel, and then what I've seen work in more larger, more mature companies. So we'll start with how do you set up your go-to-market motion, right? And how did we do it actually? I thought I would skip past the founder-led sales portion of it. I think many of you have heard this from a lot of other folks too in Accel Atom events. But do any of you want to learn about like how to do founder-led sales, or should I just go past, assuming that you know how to do it? A bit, okay. Okay, so when you start founder-led sales, I think Avinash also mentioned it, as quickly as you can, right? We make the mistake of building a full-blown product and then going to market. I would say while you're building the MVP, right, you need to test grounds, right? You need to do surveys, you need to talk to your ideal customer persona, send feelers to them. So what we did was we used to reach out, like we were targeting VPs of sales and marketing, right? And we didn't know which companies would buy us, what size of companies and what industries. So we tried reaching out to a bunch of different VPs of sales and SMB mid-market. And it was a simple template that said, hey, I'm a founder building this, solving this problem. I've spent many months of my life on this. You're an expert in this space. If you could give me 5 minutes of your time, I think I can save like a few months of my development effort, right? So I was very clear that we are still developing the product. This is not a sales pitch. This is just pure advice that I need from an expert like you. And can you spare like 5 minutes of your time, right? People like to do service, right? They don't want to be sold to, but they want to help you out. Like in general, the assumption is human beings are good in their intentions. So a bunch of people used to respond. We would pitch what we were doing, even like Figma designs, right? Prototypes, the concept. And the pitching, it's very important, right? You have to, before you pitch your idea and ask, is it good? You need to, how many of you guys have read the Mom Test book, or bunch of you guys? So you know how to pitch, right? You don't want to show your product and say, will you buy this, right? Directly. You want to start with, hey, what is your tech stack like? What are the current pain points that you have in your stack? If there was a tool that could solve a particular pain point, what would it be? What would you buy? Where is the pain more imminent? You want to ask, the first half is all about geared about their landscape, their day-to-day, their challenges, their workflows, and where the pain is the highest in the area that you're operating in, right? So you kind of guide them there. The second half, you start talking about your product, and then ask them, like, show them the product and say, actually, you're not asking for a sale at this point, right? Show them the product. Ask them, what should we be building? What else, right? What do you think will make sense? And do that with at least 20 to 30 different target personas, because what one person says, you'll hear different things. Then you map all of those out, draw the commonality, and then see if your MVP changes, based on all this feedback. Go back to these same people after like 2 or 3 months, after you have made a little bit more progress. Again, this is before you launch your MVP, right? If you're still there, go back to them and say, hey, your advice was super helpful. We have made a ton of progress. Again, want to show you the product and get your feedback, right? Even if Figma prototypes, it's fine. Show them the product. And if it's launched at that stage, you could even ask them, would you buy this? Would you know anyone who would buy this? Or even if you don't ask them, most of the times, right? Because people have invested time in you, they're going to ask you, right? Who are you going to sell it to? How can I help, right? Once you have 2-3 meetings with someone, they're definitely going to pop the question, how can I help you? So it leads to like a natural sales motion. Founders do get responses, so you should try definitely reaching out to people from your LinkedIn profile, your email. So yeah, we did that. We got to about like 20 customers through founder-led sales, and we were SMB mid-market. So if you're doing enterprise, probably 5 is enough, right? Before you start figuring out like how to start hiring and which functions to hire. So I'll pause there. Any questions on the founder-led piece? How many of you are technical founders here? And do you have a sales founder? Like Got it. Yeah, I think if you don't, it's important to learn the aspects of sales too. Like you have an email nurture campaign, you have discovery, and then you have a demo, and then you negotiate and close. So it's important to pick up some books, learn from the experts on how to do it. But once you get to your initial customer base, I would say for enterprise probably about 5, SMB mid market 20, 25, 30. You can probably start now thinking of scaling, right? Setting up the motion.
Us through how did you land your first 10 customers? What was the sequence like? Like what touch point? What stood out? And
Yeah. So the process I told you was to get product feedback and then go back to them. So a lot of these customers, as we were building the product, they would become, now we call them design partners, right? You sign contracts. At that time, we were not using the terminology, but they were design partners, right? So a bunch of those customers will start asking you, how are you going to sell this? How can I buy? Because you have solved something that they've asked you to solve, and you've been in touch with them through the process. So that's what worked well for us. Apart from that, we did do outbound to a bunch of, because inbound is, you just have a website, you don't have any of your ICPs reaching out to you. So you make a list of people, email them on LinkedIn, write sequences. Sequences do work, right? Cold call if you want to. We didn't do that in the beginning. And what we used to do was every day we would iterate with different email templates every single day, right? And different templates to different personas. So VP of sales in a small company gets a different template to a mid-market. VP ops, sales ops gets a different template. VP marketing gets a different template. Demand gen manager gets a different template. Because you want to talk about their pain points in their workflow. All of these guys' workflows and pain points are very different, right? And we would experiment every day. We would have competitions internally in the company who drafts the best template. You gamify that. And if you do it over a month, like typically I would say, if you reach out to 1,000 people in a month, right? Good templates, good process. Avinash, you probably also know this. Like the typical response rate you should get is around 5%, and you should be able to get 2% demo rate, which is 20 people should be able to give you meetings. And if you have really something that solves a pain point, I would say you should get a 20% conversion rate, right? So you should be able to close your first 5 deals in that month, or the month after that, right? Depending on your sales. But yeah, you should try to get to 20, 30 meetings at least, right? To close 5 deals. Okay, all right. So let's say you've figured out the founder-led motion. You're ready to hire a sales team. Who do you get first, right? Marketing, sales, customer success. Customer success, as you guys know, it comes a little bit later. But marketing or sales, I would say ideally start both motions first, or start if you have to pick, start marketing before sales. But both would be good because now you have some customers. You want to scale it, but you also want to start building demand, right? You want to start making inbound a big channel, a lead channel. So a quick story here. So when I was interviewing marketing directors, I spoke to this guy who came to our office, and he was so clear when I asked him, hey, how do you want to set up the marketing motion? He said, Deepak, give me budget to hire 4 people, just 4. I need 1 for SEO, 1 for SEM, 1 for content, and 1 for design, right? And he said, I need engineering help also to work with marketing, like 50% bandwidth of 1 engineer. I said, why design and why engineering? Why do you need that? Right? As not very well versed with marketing at that time. He said, so we're going to create multiple landing pages for SEM, multiple iterations of the website, and we have to do it really quick, right? So I need a designer, good designer, and he said, I'll get a graphic designer if you can't provide me one, and an engineer's bandwidth, right? And then the content thing is more long-term, right? Content doesn't give you immediate leads, but you have to start building it. SEM is paid acquisition, right? So it's expensive, but it starts giving you leads, especially if you're in a very, very well-searched category. Like when Girish Mathrubootam started, Freshworks, right? Super well-searched, right? There's so many players. Ours was a very well-searched category. It may not work if you're building a new category, right? Or if you have to educate people. SEO, you always want to do SEO. It's a low-cost mode to acquire leads. So we went ahead and did that. On the sales side, I think it's pretty obvious. You need inbound, outbound, SDRs, BDRs, right? You need AEs. I would say hire the AEs a little bit later. First get SDRs, BDRs, give them targets, let them generate enough number of meetings. You're still doing founder-led sales. When you have like multiple meetings and you are not able to handle those, right? That's when you get your first lead. CSMs is probably pretty obvious too. Like once you have your first set of customers, I would say first 10, 20 customers, the founder should be part of the onboarding, hand-holding, regularly taking feedback. Then when you're not able to handle it, start hiring CSMs, right? And as a founder, you want to light up different fires in marketing inbound, right? You want to try different experiments and see which fire sticks. You also want to like move from one setting up one function to the other, right? Because as a founder, as a go-to-market founder, the engineering founders probably are like saved from this experience. But the go-to-market founder, you have to set up processes in all of these functions. I'm going to get a little bit into hiring. I think Avinash talked about the what very well. I'm trying to get into the how to help you guys here. My experience, like we hired predominantly in India within Slintel. I've seen 6sense, they have a lot of go-to-market folks in the US. Many of you must be thinking India or US or any other country. What I have seen work really well is that in India, like SEO, SEM is technical talent. People have really good talent. You get really good talent in India here for these. Design and engineering, obviously. Mid-market, AEs, BDRs, CSMs, SMB, CSMs, you do get good talent. I would say mid-market SMB is like anywhere from $5,000 to maybe $50,000, right? And or maybe from a company size perspective, up to 1,000 employees, right? You get good talent, you can start selling to those. In the US, I think in the long run, content writers in US will really help you because you need to talk to the audience there, right? I've seen a lot of Indian content we generate is local, and if you're selling in B2B SaaS, your target market initially is the US or Europe. You really need to connect with them. Enterprise folks, I probably would hire there in the US if I were to do it again. It's just that you need that, like you've seen the snail mails and the one-to-one super close touch points and the wine and dine and all of that is probably done better in the US. Also, like word of caution here, I would say keep your costs low until you find product market fit, right? Because in India, you can run multiple experiments, and you can still be you can fail in some of them, and you'll still have cash to burn, right? US can be pretty expensive, especially if you have raised a small amount of funding. So in terms of process, when you're hiring these folks and letting go, right? As a founder, you always need to let go and let them take the lead. You probably need a lot of different playbooks for each of these functions. You don't want to get a SDR and say, hey, go get meetings, or AE, go close deals. They're not going to do it, right? So for sales, you need to have playbooks. You need to have outbound prospecting templates, inbound prospecting for all the inbound leads you're getting, cold calling scripts. You need to write them down as a go-to-market founder. What do you say on the first call? What do you say in subsequent calls? What do you say at different folks, right? Discovery call scripts, the first call, what do you say, right? You write it down, role play it, right? Demo scripts for the demo call, follow-up templates, negotiation, deal close templates, right? You need to write every single thing down for different personas, and you need to use that to train your reps, and you need to role play with them. We used to do that a lot, where you're acting as the prospect and you pitch and they pitch to you, and you continue to train them, right? And you have to probably sit with them on these initial cold calls and all of these. Without these, if you hire reps, it's most likely not going to work, right? They're going to fail. So you need to empower them with all of this. Similarly, when you hire customer success folks, you need to have account executive to CSM handoff templates. How does that handoff happen? What do you speak in the onboarding call? How do you do QBRs, quarterly business reviews? When do you do them? How do you speak? When do you do your renewal conversations, and what are the things you cover, right? Templates, presentations, documents. You need to have all of that for CSMs. Marketing, at the very minimum, email nurture templates, lead qualification templates, and then marketing to sales handoff, right? Templates. At the very minimum, right? You should have these. More is better, but continue to train, invest. Some reps will not work out in the initial stages. Some reps will, but you have to give them some time. I would say 3 to 6 months for them to absorb all of this, your product content, and start doing what they're doing. Until then, you have to be with them on those calls, right? CS calls, sales calls. You have to support them for the first 6 months. I'll take a quick pause here. Any questions? Yeah, this is super important too. Once you have the team and once you have all these templates, you have to align the team members, right? You have to align marketing, sales, and customer success. So one very good way to align everyone is OKRs. You define company OKRs. ideally not more than 5. Some of them should be go-to-market OKRs. And the OKRs should flow in a way that your targets translate, right? So it's a waterfall effect, right? Marketing, sales, CS, the target should translate. I would suggest this worked for us, may not work for everyone, but I would say every go-to-market team member should have some form of an incentive, not just a fixed compensation, some form, either a commission or a bonus payout on achieving certain targets. And the targets you define, even for content writers, right? Like X number of, and make them outcome-based targets, right? Don't say, if you write 5 blogs a month, I'm going to give you an incentive, right? You want to say, if your blog can generate X amount of visitors a month, this is what you get, right? SEM, SEO, you define targets for every single person, CSM, etc. And you also make sure when you're defining these targets for AEs, like you guys know, it's most likely 50-50, right? The OT is on target earning is 2x of your base salary. SDRs, it could be, some companies do 2x, some companies say 60-40 or 70-30. Marketing, a lot of them don't get incentives, but I would say have some bonus component or some commissions. But also make sure that 70% of the team members are able to meet those targets. If they're not able to meet those targets, what's the use, right? You want to make them meet the targets, and it's your responsibility as a founder to make sure that they're meeting them. Again, I'm saying this, your responsibility as a founder to make sure they're meeting them. One of the things we did very well was when we hired our AEs, right? First 3 months, they're not going to have much, they're going to have a ramp up time, right? AEs or BDRs. We would give them 100% commission first 3 months, and we would tell them you're getting that. So they're used to that money and they see all of that. And say from month 4 onward, right? It all depends on how much you're getting. So once people see that the founder is paying money, he's not afraid to pay, he's rewarding. Now it's on us. They start working hard, because if they've never seen the money, they will not work hard. And then when they are working, you also want to help them. Like we closed, I would say from deal 20 to deal 50, I was involved in some format or the other, or my sales leader was, and the reps, you can argue that the reps were closing them, but most likely it was me or the sales leader closing those deals, right? Sitting on those calls and closing them. So you probably need to be very, very closely involved at this stage. And again, like I can't stress this enough, make sure people are meeting commissions, right? That's when sales folks get motivated, or any go-to-market person gets motivated. I'll take a quick pause here before the next section. The first part was all about how do you set up the motion after your founder-led sales, probably get to, first couple or first few million in ARR. And then I'm going to talk more about like how do you scale beyond that after this. But before that, any questions on this?
So let's say we are building the enterprise, large enterprise product, right? And we want to target the US market. So what is the best way? Should we directly target the enterprise because it will take long sales cycle, or should we start with the mid-size startups to acquire a few mid-size customers or small customers, and then we go for the enterprise?
Good question. I think it depends on the product, because some products cannot sell to SMB mid-market, right? Some products cannot sell to enterprise. Like think of Apollo, like an example, right? Apollo is not an enterprise product. They probably, if you don't have, for example, SOC to ISO, you probably can't even sell to enterprise, right? And there are some products that are meant for SMBs. Freshworks, right? Freshworks was not an enterprise product in the beginning. They later became one, but it was all meant for SMBs. Some products are enterprise products only. There's absolutely no use case for a small company to buy. So I would say it depends on the product, but if your product, you feel that you can sell to everyone, you still want to pick a segment initially. I would say until probably the first 5 to 10 million. You don't want to like keep it very broad. SMB, mid-market, enterprise, because you have to create a lot of collateral, product marketing, sales, enablement. You have to talk to customers. It's always best sticking to a certain category, either you're SMB, mid-market, or enterprise, or you can probably pick SMB and mid-market. But see where the pain point is the highest, and then like pick that category. Yeah, so if you get an enterprise deal, may not mean that you can get like a lot more, right? So you need a little bit more validation before you can say you're enterprise ready, right? One deal may not be sufficient. If your question is, if you close enterprise, what learning can you take from that to do more SMB and mid-market? I mean, one is it gives you confidence, right? But doesn't mean that if an enterprise buys you, SMB or mid-market will buy you. Like the pain points are very different. There are some products that you can sell to everyone. I don't disagree with you on that. But when you want to do SMB mid-market, the motion is very quick, right? Sales cycle is very quick. The kind of the pain points need to be really very high, and your spending power is low there, right? So I would say you probably need some SMB mid-market customers to do more of SMB than need an enterprise customer to. So if you finally want to target SMB mid-market, I would get like initial customers in that area and use those case studies to reach out.
If you're bootstrapping, then how do you go about building this motion? You can't hire four folks, right? So then what should be the phase-wise approach? Who are the kind of folks that you would always want to start with and then move to the other one? The earlier 3 slides that you talked about, I say I can't afford 4 guys.
Yeah.
Then how do I go about it? And I still need to build my outbound motion.
Good question. Initially, let's break it down, right? Initially, let's say you're bootstrapped or you have raised very little funding, right? Assuming you're all building product companies, you probably need a couple of engineers, maybe 3 or 4 engineers, right? Probably a good designer, founders. You're still building product. One of the founders is going to be a go-to-market founder, right? So you probably don't need to hire any go-to-market folks. I would keep that structure until you get to first 5 enterprise customers or first 20 to 30 SMB customers. The founders can do the sales. If you need to hire someone, get someone who can help you with those sales, probably one person. Just keep it at that level until you hit a certain revenue. At that point, you would either have cash coming in from these deals, right? Or you might be able to raise a bigger round. Once you raise that bigger round, that's when I would say, then go hire your marketers, your sales. But initially, you probably don't need any of that. Like I always say this, right? When people are responding to when people are converting, if you solve a really important pain point, I actually think there's 3 things in an email template that should go out, right? This is my theory. So you need to have ROI, FOMO, and validation when you're reaching out. So validation is, let's say you're reaching out to Coca-Cola, for example, right? You want to say that, you've been talking to Pepsi or you're in conversation or they are a customer. So you want to give some examples in their industry that makes them interested in your email. ROI, you want to say people like you have seen X amount of return when they have used your product. Either it's top line impact, bottom line savings, or it's efficiency play, right? So you want to give ROI. But the biggest thing here is FOMO, which works in the VC world as well, works in sales. So you do want to create a fear of missing out and say, hey, for people who haven't used this, this is what they have missed out on, right? In a very nice way, right? You don't want to threaten them. You want to say, this is like the world is moving in this direction, right? You want to give them, like, for example, Gen AI, right? Creates FOMO automatically, right? The world is moving in this direction. There's a lot of companies who have bought us in this space are talking to us. And we have seen companies that don't use this may have XYZ, right? So when you hit on those 3 in an email, you will most likely get a meeting with a decent website. At this time, they have not seen your product. A decent website and a good email template should get you meetings. And the meetings always come from the email and the pain point. They don't come from the product. You may have a shitty product at this stage or no product at all. You can still, even without a product, you can generate those meetings just by talking to the right persona with the right pain point, right? So once you get that, and once you get those meetings, then I think then you follow the sales.
Deepak? Hello.
Am I audible? Yeah. Hi, I'm Manoj. I just want to take a couple steps behind, right? And you did mention about founder-led sales and so on. When you were in your journey of building your early traction, right? You guys were based in the US and you were building out. That's my first question. The second question is, how important is it for, say, a company which is trying to expand out of India, meaning trying to launch there, maybe with, say, few early customer, which kind of brings in some validation. After that, what would you suggest? That, inside sales through email marketing and all of that, or say cold calling, does it work? Or is it better to hold, I saw round tables and stuff that you had suggested there. So what works? Like, what's that? Not 0 to 1, but maybe 1 to 10, in terms of number of customers, would you suggest?
Yeah.
For SMB.
Sure. So I'll answer the first question first. Like, we were doing it out of India. Like, although I was based in US, I used to commute to India. Our initial sales team was in India. Costs were low. We didn't raise too much money in the beginning. And from India, especially in Bangalore, the place we are in, you get amazing sales talent, right? SDR, BDR talent. People can speak, write great English, emails. You have AEs who can close. And honestly, the world, like post-COVID, COVID helped all of us, right? People are used to remote buying. Buyers are used to remote buying, even if it's $1 million deal. I've seen remote buying happen, right? You don't need to be on the field and sell. So as long as you're professional, talk the walk, and then have a decent product, you can sell from India. I would strongly suggest that at least until you find product market fit, because hiring in US before product market fit can be a very costly experiment that can burn all your money down. So that's my suggestion. So that's the first part of your question. In terms, I think the second part was how do you like? Sorry, could you repeat the second part again?
While going from your first early set of customers and trying to get like a PMF also, right? Because first customer or first few customers might be even pre PMF. During that phase, being there or interacting in terms of holding round tables or stuff.
Yeah.
How effective that can be, and what channel would you then use to
Sounds good. Yeah. So I would say the initial customers, I think outbound works well. You probably don't have a brand, you don't have much of inbound coming in. If you have, then great, right? Then not tap into those leads. But initially you want to do outbound, right? Warm, cold outbound. But once you reach like that minimum critical mass where you're hiring folks, that's the time to.
I'm still talking about the founder-led sales phase, right?
Founder-led sales, I would say, if you're not getting a lot of inbound, like I heard somebody saying 3,000 visitors a day, right? 50 leads, 3,000 a month, 50 form fills a month. It's not a ton, right? If those are not closing, if you're not getting much, then you have, how do you get those meetings? You still need to do your outbound. You need, like, they don't know you, the market doesn't know you. So now for outbound, you can do different things. You can do outbound based on ABM. You can do outbound based on intent data, like, or people who are visiting your website, you de-anonymize that and then you reach out to them. You can look at LinkedIn communities and see people who are talking about your competitors are asking questions. You can reach out to them. So it can be smart outbound. It doesn't need to be blind cold outbound. And that's where the warm outbound comes in. But I would say that's probably your best bet if you're not getting a lot of inbound.
Thank you. Yeah. And how much does these conferences and roundtables work in fine-tuning the early product and maybe finding your first tribe of early adopters possibly?
So assuming that in this question, like when you talk about it, people are still here, right, in India, right? So you're not meeting people in person. You can do online.
Well, if meeting people in person is there, does that add, more credit, or does that really catalyze your effort?
I don't think it wouldn't matter too much at that stage, right? At that stage, like the very early stage when product is still just in the market, I think the webinars and all are more top of the funnel at that stage, right? People are not going, you're just creating awareness with webinars and podcasts and everything. You probably have to, again, reach out to those leads. If you have the bandwidth, you should absolutely do that. Those are low cost channels. Host, you may not get many registrants, but you should do them. I wouldn't do higher cost events. Like I wouldn't do like a lot of lunches, dinners. The exception to that is if you're doing like enterprise and strat segment where cold outbound is not getting you any responses or warm outbound is not getting you responses. Inbound is very difficult, right? Probably then you may have to figure out how to get someone to an event. Right? A lot of people, like what they do is if they have smaller group events which are more effective than larger ones, right? Initially, so 6 to 10 people having lunch or dinner, your target personas, and you have one of your target persona, you incentivize them and you allow them to speak and share their experiences, right? And then you ask the other target personas to come to listen to that person, right? But you're not selling your product, you're sponsoring the event, sponsoring the lunch, and then slowly you build the relationship and start closing. So that could work for larger customers.
I know. Thank you.
Deepak, can you talk a little bit more about evaluating talent, specifically sales? Because based on sort of my understanding, though you sort of say talent is pretty much available, but I don't think people will sort of believe that. But Slintel, fortunately, built a really solid team. And like a lot of these SDRs didn't do B2B SaaS sales prior to before coming to Slintel, and some of them performed really well, and some are still with Slintel, right?
Yeah.
So can you sort of talk more about what with sort of talent?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So when we are hiring SDRs, I'll talk about like each persona, right? Normally SDRs who are fresh out of college with 0 to 1 years experience, I would say a degree in journalism or mass communication, or who know good English, right? When you evaluate them, they're hungry. They want to prove themselves to the world. So we used to hire, if we hire two SDRs, we would hire one SDR who's hungry, talented, and just out of college. And the other one would be more experienced from a SaaS company, 3 to 4 years experience. And so we would like bunch these folks together, and that would lead to a very interesting dynamic, right? The younger ones, we had SDRs who would play the guitar to get a meeting, right? You've seen some of those campaigns, because we always encouraged, and we had spiffs, right? We would say, so when commissions are normal, like commissions, right? But spiffs, what we would do is to incentivize short-term behavior. Every month we had different kinds of spiffs. So one of the spiff would be the most creative SDR campaign gets $500 this month, right? If you get a meeting, right? Qualified meeting. Or it could be the most number of meetings in the first 10 days of this month gets a $500. Or the deal with the highest dollar value closed set up by an SDR gets $500. So we would run different kinds of spiffs. We would always encourage innovation, and there were Slack channels. At that time we were using Skype, where people would like talk about the innovative campaigns and post it, and then they would get a lot of kudos from the founders and everyone else. So we just wanted, as SDRs, you have to continuously be innovative, because people don't respond otherwise, right? So we were doing that, and we were mixing up. And what we realized was sometimes the hungry SDRs without any experience, they were doing much better than SDRs we hired from the top 10 SaaS companies in India, right? Who had that experience. It was just that the amount of effort they were putting and the innovation they were bringing. But that dynamic was interesting, because now the experienced SDRs also look at them and feel like, hey, this guy is much younger than me and he's doing so well. He's getting 15 meetings a month. I'm getting 5, right? I need to do something different. So we created that dynamic with SDRs. I think even with AEs, we were like, some of our best AEs, came from companies like India Cement, right? And some of them came from B2C companies like Zomato, and we were pleasantly surprised. So initially we hired from SaaS companies. Some of them didn't work out. Some were okay. We invested in training for all of them, but we always used to mix it up. If we found someone, with those kind of skills, we would just mix it up and then encourage people. That really worked with us. I'll take one more question and then I have to go. Good question. I'm maybe wrong person, because I've not been hiring for the last 2.5 years in the go-to-market space, right? I'm leading product in 6sense right now. I would say talk to Avinash post this conversation. He might give you the current estimates. Mine might be like, I know Indian salaries are going up every year, so mine might be a little bit dated. So when we were doing this, I would say a typical SDR profile was getting, like we wanted people with good English and good background. So I would say they were getting between 8 to 12 lakhs in fixed component per year. And then there was a good 30% variable on top of that, right? If they meet OT target. If they exceed target, they were kickers. So they would get 2x, 3x. If they hit less than 50% of the target, they get 0. Right? So you have to hit at least 50% of the target to get any commission. For AEs, we had I think they were between 15 to 25 lakh range fixed component. And we had variable, OTE was 100% of that, right? So they could, a good AE could make 50 lakhs a year. And some of our AEs, if they were hitting 200, 300% of the target, they were making a lot more, right? So, and they won't hit that in every year or every month, but they saw the money coming, and that's one of the things that work really well. Some AEs were getting higher paid than VP of sales in that particular month that they were doing really well, right? So they would make 4 or 5 lakhs a month, right? Because they got some big deals. And once you start seeing that and spelling that and see that company is not afraid to pay, then they start working harder. And the other thing we did was we gave monthly payouts. We didn't do quarterly or yearly. We wanted them to see that every month and then create insane competition between all the AEs in a good way, right? Yeah. I'll try to wrap up in 5 minutes. I'll go a little quick here. And actually, this part may not be very relevant for some of you at this stage. This comes at a later stage. Quickly go through it. So when you're scaling the motion, I would say probably once you're a few million in ARR and you're scaling it, some other roles come into picture. In sales, you need sales ops, right? Maintain your CRM, update it, allocate territories, define compensation plans. You need sales enablement. You need a ton of training content. Marketing, you need product marketing. Product marketing sits slightly above sales enablement, right? So they are sitting very close to the product managers, creating all the content for them. Marketing ops, marketing development representatives, MDRs, who are doing all the email nurture before they hand over leads to SDRs. And then CS ops. Once you have a good number of CS managers and customers, you have to start looking at what's happening in the CS org, right? So that becomes an important role too. Leadership hiring, I would say you should probably hire your VPs at this stage. Don't over designate in the beginning. Hire VPs later. So VP of sales, directors for each of these BDRs, SDR, AE, VP of marketing, and then for each of the function, right? Director for demand gen, you can get a brand and community director, product marketing, then VPs and directors of customer success. And then you can start exploring different channels also at this stage, like events. If you haven't done events before this, you should start exploring that. Partnerships is a good time to explore reseller partnerships. Account-based marketing. Avinash might disagree with me. He might say you can actually start with account-based marketing. I think the world is also changing where buyers are driving more decisions themselves. But in case you haven't invested in that at that stage, this is definitely a stage you have to invest in account-based marketing, right? You need to know who's visiting your website. You need to know intent keywords that people are searching on, and you need to customize campaigns based on all of that. Any questions on how do you scale the motion before I talk about the final step, which is operating at scale? Okay, so when you have reached a substantial scale, probably or 50 million ARR, and you have a pretty large team, you will start seeing some more functions coming in, and they could come in earlier also depending on where you are. So you'll have sales engineers to help salespeople sell. You'll have solution consultants, right? Product consultants, account managers, right? So you might have renewal specialists. CSMs might just be helping do customer success, right? You might have different folks for renewals and account managers for upselling to those accounts. Marketing, you will have customer marketing, definitely brand marketing at this stage, community marketing, PR, and partnerships, full-blown teams for each of these. And for customer success, you probably will have professional services if you're selling to enterprise, helping with onboarding, training of customer. You might separate that out from CSMs, make CSMs, once the customers are onboarded properly, then the CSMs come in, right? So you might want to have PS. And then customer support, right? For all the FRs, feature requests coming in, for all the bugs in the platform, right? You will have to buy tools. You can do that at the early stage too, but at this stage, you definitely need a full-blown customer support team that handles those queries and not bombard the CS team with those kind of things. And then additional channels at this stage is most companies you will see have a flagship event. 6sense has Breakthrough, Salesforce has Dreamforce, obviously, but HubSpot has Inbound. So you probably need to have your own flagship event because brand community again, right? And you want people to sign up, and I can talk a lot about that separately, but 6sense has done these events really well, and it's a huge lead channel for us, and we close tens of millions of dollars through our event. Then you do PR, customer marketing, and then cross-selling. At this stage, I'm assuming most companies will have more than one product, core product. So you land with any of those, and you start cross-selling, and that becomes like a channel in itself, right? And you create a motion in itself. So I'll quickly end with these two slides, territory planning and best practices. I'm going to share the slides with you, so we can't go through all of this, but in general, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, BDRs, and SDRs, I just separated these two out. So BDRs, probably you want to allocate 200 to 500 accounts per rep to prospect. Mid-market 100 to 200, and then enterprise less than 50, right? You don't want to, there's not that many enterprises to sell to. You don't want to burn that. This could be a potential target. Like these kind of targets worked for us. 16 to 20 qualified meetings, qualified, not any meeting, right? The AE should should agree that this is a qualified meeting. 10 to 12 for mid-market, 6 to 8 for enterprise might be a good target to chase. The tip here is don't burn your target market, right? And going back to what Avinash said, don't burn it. I know there's this initial inclination by founders, hey, let me do 5,000 emails this month. Let's reach out. What happens is after 1 year, you might get to 1 million, 2 million in ARR. After 1 year, your market stops responding, right? You have spammed them enough. You don't have a brand. you're considered spam, and then the growth just slaps. So you have to be very mindful. Take them in small batches, nurture them, and treat them well, and then build that brand and community. And as founder, you have to be paranoid about brand, right, from day zero, even more than revenue. SDRs. So BDRs are, outbound, SDRs, inbound. SDRs, ideal response time is less than a minute. May not happen. But if they can't, then maximum within 2 hours. So we used to have SDRs even respond on weekends, and we would not make it mandatory for them, right? That's not the culture we were building, but we had good spiffs and incentive programs saying that if you respond, then the fastest time gets some award. The person with the most inbound outreach gets an award. And for the inbound SDR teams, it would be round robin, right? And weekends it would be first come first serve basis, right? Whoever reaches out first gets the lead. So it automatically created competition, and they used to cherish it. They used to get a lot of meetings, and because they're getting meetings, they're getting money every month, right? So it's a vicious cycle there, right? So you get all of that. A tip here is don't miss out on the leads that haven't filled out a form. Less than 3% of the people visiting your website fill out forms. The others don't. But you do. There are tools to know, not the person who is visiting your website, but at least the company, and you know your target persona in that company, right? So create a list of those, start an outbound nurture, start doing ads if you're doing marketing nurture. Don't sit idle with those, right? There's a bunch of people visiting. For AEs, again, similar kind of numbers, SMB, mid-market, enterprise. That's the target I would look at for AEs. I've kept the targets reasonably low, so they are achievable. 750K per AE for SMB in the US, 1 million in the mid-market, 1.2 million enterprise in the US if you're hiring in the US. In India, 250K, 350K, and then 600K, 500K for enterprise. Also, another tip here is you can start with a 1:1 SDR AE ratio, tag team them initially, right? So both help each other out. And then over time, try to get to a 1:2, 1:2.5 SDR AE ratio. That means your SDR function is working really well. You're getting enough leads. Plus, once you start building brand, you'll obviously start getting more inbound leads, right? So you can gravitate towards that ratio over time. For CSMs, give some numbers there. SMB CSMs, 30 to 50 accounts per rep. Mid-market, 20 to 30. And enterprise, ideally less than 10, because that's very high touch CSM engagement. And then another tip here is for very small dollar value accounts, try to move them to a support model, right? You may not have that initially. If they're your first 20 clients, you still want to support them in CSM. Your goal is to move them to support. And before you do that, you need to create enough self-service guides, in-product help, KB articles, videos, guides, make it as self-sufficient as possible. And if they have any queries beyond that, then direct them to support, right? Because that will remove your then you can remove the CSMs from this segment and then start putting them on the higher value accounts and more high touch there. But you do that over time. Don't do that on day one. Cool, yeah. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me. I've met some of you recently. I see some familiar faces, but if you want to connect, I'm always open to having a chat.
We'll start off with the panel discussion. So feel free to ask some questions. I'll prompt some initial questions. I think topics which are not discussed here. Let me start with some questions. A lot of founders, very early in the time, they get pinged by Gartner reports. Hey, you should be part of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Even let's say they're 1 year into it, they have less than 500,000 a year. When should they start thinking about Gartner Magic Quadrant? Should they be part of it or not?
Yeah, I'd say Gartner and Forrester are really good investments to do. Probably not, in founder-led sales though, right? Initially, you're not going to get rated well, right, by Gartner too. If you're at that stage, you do want to once you get it to the first few clients. And when you're scaling that motion, where I was talking about, you should start conversations with analysts, right? The Forrester Wave and the Gartner Magic Quadrant come much later. They come on an per invite basis only, but you have to build that relationship at least for a few months to a year before they even start featuring you in one of their articles. And then they shortlist vendors from there, and then they ask you to come to the quadrant. So start early, but not before you have found product market fit, not before you have your first few customers.
I think not if I have to put it right, not before 10 million. I think go to at least 5 to 10 million kind of a scale, and after that you can start putting yourself in magic quadrant. But I think one more angle to that is if you are into enterprise, if you are selling into enterprises, right? That is where you can think of slightly earlier, because enterprises, especially companies which are like 750 million and above in revenue, they might consider magic quadrant and all as a very good thing to refer to, but definitely not early stage, definitely not below 5 million kind of a thing. Yeah.
Just one thing there, but do invest in reviews, G2 reviews.
Absolutely, yes.
Of that, even at the earlier stage, right? People look at that for validation.
That was my second question, right? So, how do you get G2 reviews when you're early? Like, is one G2 review, two G2 reviews? You incentivize your customers. It feels like you're kind of forcing them to review. So how aggressive should you go on that? When should you invest?
Yeah. So there are multiple ways. One is first at least get at least 20 customers who are liking your product. They are very comfortable with playing around with the product. Have a sequence cadences with them in terms of how to. So I'll tell you, right, like what we are doing right now is we don't have much reviews, but there is a pipeline of 50 plus reviews there. So we got our first 20 reviews by so we have these weekly calls with them, and in these calls we just talk to them how you are feeling about the product and about the offerings. That is when you can slide in there. They are at Highradius. At Scale, we used to give like lot of giveaways in terms of giving them Amazon gift cards, or so we like Deepak was mentioning, there is an annual conference, right? So we had one annual conference called Radiance. So we used to give a lot of discounts for Radiance entry for G2 if you put a G2 post or a video and everything. So I think first part, the basic fundamental thing is you have to focus on G2. The moment you start doing that, I think you will start getting a lot of reviews. You talk to customers, you have those cadences in place, tell them what they are liking, give them some meat in terms of, hey, mention some numbers and everything. You have already been doing that because customers are clueless, right? They said, yeah, I like Sprouts, but what did you like about Sprouts? Hey, I like that open rates have gone up by 30%. So I think, hey, this is something which you can mention. So lead them into that G2 reviews as well is something what I would say. But have a cadence and have a structure. Yeah.
And time them well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we would like the way we would time them is when CSMs talk to customers, say they talk to them throughout the years, but in month 3 or month 4, if their customer says, I'm really happy, I'm impressed, bang, like the next thing is they would ask for a G2 review. And we also had spiffs for that, not just for like what customer gets for a G2 review, but also CSM. If they get a 4 or 5 star review or 4.5 or 5 star, or they get a testimonial or something from the customer, they would get monetary incentive, right? So we would incentivize them. But yeah, timing is critical on when you ask for the review. It never helped us, honestly. Like we raised a lot of VC funding, we got featured. I think that's more for publicity and brand. So people know you, and if they're already in the sales cycle, late stages, maybe they refer the article and they feel confident and they invest in you. But we never used to get leads that convert directly from the article.
It will help only in credibility building, but not sure if it'll generate a lot of demand. Yeah, if there is an article on Crunchbase or Bloomberg or anywhere, right? Like it will build some credibility, but not sure if it will generate some leads or something.
Yeah. So, and especially if you're operating in an industry which is very trust driven, like say data, like in the industry that I operate in, trust is a big factor. And that is where what Gartner says or what Forrester says makes a lot of sense. For enterprises also, for SMBs also, they would see the G2 and Capterra rating. And in the initial part, you won't have that many ratings, right? So especially for that particular thing, how do you solve in the context of what we are discussing? For like something which is very trust heavy industry.
Yeah. So generally when BDRs reach out, right, and founders reach out on what we would do is in our email signatures, you would talk about your rating, right, on G2, etc. You would also reference any articles if you have raised VC money or if you have not. If you're featured in an article, you would put like small links in your signature very subtly, right? So people read that and they build some trust. So for trust building, yes, I think that's what we were saying. For trust building, credibility building, yes, it helps. Now TechCrunch may not feature you out of the blue, right? Maybe there's an event or maybe you're solving something that the market needs. And so it's tough to get featured in reputed publications like TechCrunch, right? There might be other publications you can get featured in. But if you can, you should take it, right? There's no harm in it. You don't have to invest a lot of time into it. If the journalist reaches out to you, one interview, and they like it, and they should be able to publish an article.
Yeah, I'll just add, I invest a lot in cybersecurity and dev tools, and especially cybersecurity is all based on trust sales, right? So first is on your TechCrunch question. It's expensive to get a TechCrunch review. Typically, they will not unless you're like getting a investment like $50-60 million. As VCs also, it's becoming tough to get your companies reviewed over there. I think the biggest use of TechCrunch reviews is hiring. And please let me know. Like in hiring, it impacts a lot because TechCrunch has reviewed you. I think over a period of time, Indian audience will also become smarter, and that's fine. They go with who's on your investment cap table. Is the founder making sense or not? Do you have enough money? So I think over a period of TechCrunch is important, but you have to see whether it's the use of what you're using it for. Now, selling trust-based products in cybersecurity and developer tools. In developer tools, it is if you're open source, a lot of the trust just comes from your GitHub stars. What people look at pull requests, people look at all those tickets, and is the company responsive or not? So it's very public. So that's where it gets sorted, and that's why it's very important. And your developer docs, if you are a very technical developer, like ELG motion tool. For cybersecurity in particular, where you're not, let's say, open source, it actually, most of our companies have been successful doing that using influencer-driven marketing rather than some of the other stuff. So you go to the regular popular events, are you featured on security podcasts? Are people talking about your product and making sure some of those thought leaders are talking about, hey, this is the new cool thing which is happening. So we've seen some takeoff using that. So it's a slightly different approach. Once you have that, then all the other traditional marketing thing definitely helps, right? So you have to do both, but the spike initially comes from the influencer market. So one more question. So, early stage founders, when it's founder-led sales, a lot of time founders are very confused. And a lot of founders here, for example, are not necessarily from GTM side, right? They get approached by a lot, like how should they engage with agencies or marketing advisors and sales advisors and SEO organizations and all that to get advice, right? So did you guys use them? I mean, I know you guys do a lot of solutioning. What is the best way to engage with them, or is it useful?
So in my case, I was doing sales before my startup, right? So I had a bit of background, so I did not engage anyone. But wherever there were gaps, like I didn't know much about marketing or customer success and some of those functions. Interviews were a great source to learn, right? Asking people, hey, how do you set this up in your company? And interviewing them and going through the process. And then as you get smarter folks on board, those were great sources to learn. Actually, we did engage one firm. It didn't work out for us at all. So there was one firm that came highly recommended from US VCs, and they said, hey, this firm does great outbound. So we engaged them. The challenge with those is you pay them a fraction of what you would normally pay a full-time SDR, right? And they have multiple. In this case, this client had 7 companies that they were working with. So the message is diluted. And I think these SDR, BDR, these roles are like full-time jobs. You have to be living, breathing the product, thinking about it most of your day and doing it over a period of few months to do it. It's very hard to work in a part-time capacity and make it successful.
I think long-term, think of everything in-house because there is a lot of skin in the game. If somebody is working for you, the execution levels are at a different level. For us, for example, we are 3 founders. All 3 of us doesn't have SEO kind of expertise. So we have a SEO expert, right? So what are your strengths? So I understand outbound GTM and inbound well, but SEO is an art, right? Like you have to go really deep into programmatic part. You have to do very good job in those keywords tracking and everything. So we have an agency for that. So map what you can do. If you can do something, do it in-house. If something which you can't do it, then I would recommend that spend a lot of time, do reference checks, and only then invest in agencies. So we have done for SEO one, and for events we can't do it at the US, right? So we have worked with one US event agency, right? Because it is not to do that we can't do it, but there was no bandwidth, so they can fill in for that. So you have to map like what are your strengths. If you are able to do outbound and everything, outbound is pretty simple. Let me tell you, right? Like you can do it. You can build that function in house. Like there are functions like SEO. Content is another typical one where you need some skill sets. So for that, you can look for some agencies. Get references. I think the community is pretty solid. You will get, if you float a query, you will get a lot of good references, and only then get them on board. But long term, my submission would be get in-house. I'm a big believer of in-house.
So next question, Deepak, is you alluded that a lot of founders tend to spam the entire market, right? And within a year, you've exhausted all the possible leads, and now nobody's picking up your calls. So and there is which leads also this struggle between marketing teams and sales teams, right? Always that fight. The marketing team is generating garbage leads for us, and sales team is saying so basically. So how do you judge? How does a marketing team know they're doing the right thing, or is it sales validation or something else?
We used to have that problem a lot. I think all companies have. If your marketing team is not complaining about sales or sales not complaining about marketing, then there's something wrong, right? They're always at loggerheads because they have goals that complement each other. I think it all boils down to OKRs again, right? The way you define your OKRs and the way you help your marketing OKRs translate into sales OKRs, and then align the leader of marketing and leader of sales to align on, how many MQLs do you need that convert to SQLs in the whole year, right? That convert to meetings and that convert to closures. And the marketing leader should be able to say, what are the channels that will give me those MQLs? How much budget do I need on SEM? So all of that is the planning stage, right? You need to do that at the beginning of the year and then revisit that every few months. So that brings a little bit of alignment between marketing and sales. But even though you do all of that, right? So marketing will always complain, hey, we have such good leads, sales is not working on them, right? And sales will say, no, marketing leads are garbage. They're not closing. I think there's no silver bullet there, but I think you just need to kind of founder sometimes needs to step in. The marketing sales leader needs to step in too, and evaluate what these really bad leads, or are these not converting because of we're having bad SDRs, AEs, they're not doing proper discovery. In our case, a lot of times we realized the leads weren't that bad, right? It was the capability of the SDR, BDR, because some BDRs, SDRs will close a lot more. The conversion rates will vary. That is a good indicator that, it's probably not, the problem is like restricted to a few, similar with AEs. But let's say none of them are closing, then maybe the marketing leads are not that good. So you can start rotating the marketing leads also between different people at different points in time and see and play those and see what can convert, what cannot. The other thing we did was we also had marketing demand gen team join some of the calls that SDRs, BDRs, and AEs were at one point, just to see how they're pitching, and then they would do a write-up and say what can be improved. So we would bring that alignment. AEs would join BDR calls, demand gen would join BDR calls, just to make sure they're all agreeing that whether it was a junk lead or whether it was a bad closure process for us.
Yeah, this was a perennial problem everywhere. And I'm not sure if we can avoid it. One thing which we did at Highradius was we gave marketing folks SQL as a target, right? Which is sales qualified lead as a target. So marketing team runs the campaign. They generate that MQL. Sales team goes for the first call, which is SAL, sales accepted lead. And then SQL is they give a demo, which is a successful execution of a demo. That is a sales qualified lead. Now, marketing teams owned this target. And as Deepak mentioned, right, marketing team used to go on those calls and every call was recorded. And even at, let's say, we were valued at around $3 billion. Even the founder used to check if any lead is dropped. He used to make a phone call to prospect and check, hey, what kind of pain point you did not have. So there was always a fear in sales mind that every lead is an opportunity to be closed. And for marketing, it was your lead can be disqualified. So ensure that it goes to SQL. So marketing was gold at SQL level, and sales was gold from SQL to closed won.
Another hack I can give you guys, which I learned in 6 Sense, we didn't implement in Slintel, was there's a team that does win-loss analysis. So what they do is, even for the deals that didn't close and the deals that closed, there's a team that interviews those prospects, right? Post-closure. And normally people don't jump on calls. So they are incentivized, just like you incentivize people to do a G2 review for $20 or so. People are incentivized just to give candid feedback so we can improve. And you'd be surprised when you do the loss analysis, what reasons people give, right? And people are very honest. They say, hey, your AE ran a very bad process, right? Compared to the other AEs I was evaluating with competitors, BDR was not good. So you can make out like, is there a process problem? Is there a person problem? Is there a product problem? Or like, is it just a junk lead, right? So you should do some of that.
See, some of the things which you mentioned of having some analysis or calling up these people, like BDR, SDRs are doing full-time job, marketing team is doing full-time job. So do you need marketing ops, sales ops, revenue ops? When do you bring like a person who's just dedicated to make sure everything is working fine? Like when do you hire that person, or is it a responsibility by SDR, BDRs themselves?
You absolutely need to hire ops, right? BDRs, SDRs cannot do ops. Like initially you probably don't need them, but I would say sooner the better. I think once you get to like a few BDRs, maybe 3-4 BDRs, 3-4 AEs, you definitely need an ops person. You definitely need a manager, right? For them, BDR manager, AE manager, and they will ask for an ops person. You have to use a CRM, right? I hope you don't skip that step. And when you use CRMs, like we were using Salesforce, right? So we had to get an ops person. It's I was saying, if you're using HubSpot and all, those might be easier. But the ops person that we hired, used to upload lists, clean up the data, allocate, leads to BDRs, SDRs, work with the VP of sales, work with founders or marketing. So there's a lot of cleanup work required and a lot of assignment, non-assignment, and then all the BDRs, AEs will start asking them questions. So it definitely improves the efficiency of the whole team. So I would definitely say hire once you have like few BDRs and AEs.
Avinash, one question to you. In one of the companies I work closely with, I've seen them go from the point which Deepak alluded to was go from managing prospects in Excel sheet, like Google Sheets. So Excel sheet first, because everything was on founder desktop. Then they hired a sales guy, so Google Sheet banana pada. Then after Google Sheet, they went to Zoho. From Zoho, they went to HubSpot. And every time they moved, they have lost data or there's a lot of loss of translation. So is there like a advice on choosing the right CRM? Because you've seen companies from like 0 to 10 million, 20 million, right? Is there a particular CRM they should just choose?
My vote goes for Salesforce any day because I'm biased here because I have always used Salesforce. So my answer will have that bias. But if you're in early stage, I think go with HubSpot. It has got marketing piece as well, and CRM is also pretty sophisticated. And eventually, if you have grown big, I have not seen any company on, let's say, apart from Salesforce using any other CRM because it's more user friendly. At least I like the way they have structured the dashboards and everything. It's very user friendly and very easy to access. I've not found that on, let's say, at scale on HubSpot or Zoho. I've not used Freshsales, so I don't know. But I think the short answer is if you can start, because CRM, I'm telling you, right? Like CRM is bread and butter. You will live and every time you will be just using CRM for, it's a source of truth for you. What is happening in the business? How many leads you have got? How much is closure? Who is closing your deals and everything? It's a single source of truth. It's a business impacting function, right? Like a tool. So sooner the better if you maintain CRM better, and if you have a marketing or any ops person, basic ops person who is owning to manage that entire CRM, that would be better. But I think, Prayank, we should definitely move from Excel sheets. Please get into any CRM, right? You have to be structured there.
Okay, yeah. One last question from my side, then we'll take a lot of audience questions. So CRM is a single source of truth, but how do you make sure that people enter the truth, right? How do you make sure CRM adherence happens between SDRs and BDRs? So we'll just take this, or it's a related question.
Sort of self-advertising myself. If you have this problem when you're migrating to CRM and you're facing the data challenge, talk to Nectar.
Okay, so migrate to CRMs, okay. Yeah, so question again is, how do you make sure CRM adherence happens? Like everybody's entering the required data in the account properly.
I think please conduct all weekly reviews on CRM. That's the best way to get that discipline. If anybody says, what I done this many sales, I've generated this many leads. Gentlemen, please open the CRM, show me what has happened in the CRM. I think once that discipline comes into picture, right? Everything, please open your CRM and show us what has happened. and only then it is considered as it has happened. That is the only way I would say. Yeah.
+1 to that. +1. We would do that all the weekly. If it's not in the CRM, even if you're closing a 100K deal, it doesn't matter, right? Like the VP of sales is not going to accept that. So it has to be in the CRM. And when you use other tools, like we were using Gong and other tools as well, so they all feed from the CRM, right? So if it's not in the CRM, it's not in any of the other tools. I would say move away from Excel sheets, as it's okay to do that in the beginning, but enforce that, adhere to that. Like the benefits of that are immense in the long run.
Cool. So I have one more question. Then we can, hiring a US sales leader, for a Indian SaaS company. So your time zone is India. You hire somebody in the US. Let's say you get to $1 million, $2 million. First of all, what's the right time, and what are the challenges people should watch out for?
Like I said, like in my presentation earlier, like product market fit, ideally, if you haven't raised a ton of money before you hire a US sales leader. Now the US sales leader is not just going to be one person. Like when you hire him, you have to give him some team, right? You can't just give him like an India sales team and say, manage this, right? So you probably need like a couple of AEs, maybe a SDR or two in the US, and then your India team also, who he or she can manage. But yeah, probably a few million in ARR is when I would suggest doing that. When you have raised enough capital that you can burn, like, because I'm talking about like a 4 or 5 member team now in US. We calculate the cost when you have enough runway for like at least 2+ years, and knowing that any sales hire you do might take 6 months before they start showing results. So plan for the worst case scenario and make sure your projections in your runway meet that.
Slightly different thought on this. So I have seen companies go from 0 to 15-20 million from India itself. So you can do that as well. For example, there was one division in Highradius called mid-market. So they used to cater less than 200 million kind of ARR. They did from 0 to like 15 million purely from India without having a brand, right? So like Deepak was mentioning in his talk, hire smart people who are gritty, who are hungry, who are very well spoken and want to prove a point. I think you have, and obviously if you are spending a lot of time on sales and everything, like playbooks he was mentioning, documentation, what should be the pitch, if somebody has done with a discovery call, what should be the email which should go out, what is the structure of follow-ups you should do when you are getting into solutioning call, what kind of questions you should ask. If that entire documentation and structure and training is done right, even from India there are many smart people out there who can do sales in US. But to be very honest, like if you have raised enough money and if you have hit 1 to 2 million, I think that is the right time. But there are some outliers who have gone from 0 to 15-20 million from India itself. So it's all about how you execute it. Yeah.
Actually, question to you, Avinash, like when is the right time to write the playbooks for sales?
I think immediately after 10 to 15 customers, if you have got it, you have enough intel in terms of what customer is looking for. So playbook, for example, I'll tell you what was the ABM playbook. So there were 4 plays: scout, snipe, hits the bullseye, and go on a first date. So scout is nothing but we are going to reach out to company which really having pain points, and these are 5 steps you will qualify. Snipe, what is the best message to reach out to them? Hits the bullseye. Once you get a positive response, these are 5 things you should do. You should study about their news. You should study about their LinkedIn. You should study this. And then you're going on a first date, or we call it as discovery call, right? How do you hand over it to sales? And based on what research an SDR or a BDR has done, right? Sales team also should ask similar kind of questions so that you sound more intelligent. See, at the end of the day, if you do more homework, you sound more intelligent. So this is a playbook, right? So I think sooner the better. The thing is, it is more effective. And Prayank, one learning has been 2 things which you can scale faster. One is people and one is process. Process is pure of playbook. Playbooks for everything, right? Let's say if you're hiring a person, what is an onboarding process? On day 1, what he is going to do, what room they are going to sit in. So that should be also a playbook, right? So usually I've seen like people get confused if we throw bodies at a problem and hire people, right? We will scale. That's really wrong. You should have people and process. Process is nothing but playbooks.
Talked about that how to make up most of the events, right? Where you said that you get the attendee list, try to set up meetings as many as possible, right? Say for example, a founder is going for a couple of months to attend multiple conferences in multiple cities. Uh, what other avenues that he should explore apart from those, anchor events that are there? Like that, anyways, he is going for that event would be for 3 days, right? But then there is another 3 4 days or 5 days after which another event is there. So just wanted to understand that, and we are more or less on the same stage. We have 15 20 customers, and getting into the US market. What are the different avenues that we can explore and to make the most of the trip?
Please talk to as many customers you can.
How?
Just customers. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, get references from friends, like Deepak mentioned, right? Like, don't try to sell, just tell, hey, I'm building a product, would love to take your feedback. You have been expert in this area, would love to get your thoughts. Can we catch up for a coffee? I think the best utilization of time is talk to as many customers you can, because what you are going to build and your messaging, your sales, everything is defined on n number of interactions you do with your customers.
So, and do you think meetups would work? Like the meetups that are there in those cities, do you think those kind of meetups help?
Yeah, so one, they do help at least improve your presence, right? And talk to people that you exist, right? As a founder, you are going to meet up, especially if you're in the Valley, there's a lot of founder meetups, etc. You may not get your, like if you're selling to enterprises, right? Where the right persona in those enterprises may not come to a normal regular meetup, but if there's a meetup where you find them, like your buyer persona, then yes, definitely. You should do your own events. If you're as a founder, you're traveling for 2 months to the US, right? You probably have your own lunches and dinners where you invite customers. You figure out how to get at least 6 to 10 customers in that event. Maybe one of them is your 6 to 10 companies in that event. Maybe one of them is your customer, right? And in the conversation, you can ask them like, hey, how do you use our product? And let the team know, right? A very subtle sales pitch, but let them connect with each other and you facilitate that. So you can do a bunch of those if you have the right marketing campaign and right incentive for people to come. And then, reach out and like try to meet people in person when you're abroad. But yeah, I think you have to just like do your own events or attend events that are already there pretty much, or maybe like SaaSter kind of like events where or Dreamforce, like sometimes you can also sponsor events like as a low-key sponsor where you get a booth, right? You get a booth, you have your posters and you give product demos. Those also help.
Deepak, can you sort of talk more about like your 0 to 1 journey and like if you guys explored partnerships as a go-to-market motion? And I know like for example, Highradius did sort of crack partnerships at a very different sort of level, but like how do you sort of prioritize, because so much going on? There's Nearbound and there's like all those sort of partnership-led go-to-market, content-led. Everybody's sort of building Netflix for their own like B2B SaaS company. So how do you sort of prioritize? Any thoughts on or any insights around that?
Yeah, so we consciously stayed away from partnerships in the 0 to 1 stage. It might work for some companies. I'll tell you why we stayed away from it. Because generally partnerships, like when you talk about the big reseller partners, right, or the big system integrators, partnerships generally is done with equals, right? Typically, when for them to give you enough attention and space, because they're also partnering with a lot of companies. So you need to have some presence in the market before they start selling your product. If you now select a partner like a smaller company as your partner, right? You're a small company, they're a small company. May not be much use, right? They may not even know customers. You might spend a lot of time training their reps to sell your product. And they're also working with other companies, right? So they do work really well when you're slightly bigger because you partner with equals and then they help you, either they're implementing your products or they're complementary products that 1 + 1, you bundle both together and sell into the market. So they do help at that stage. For some folks, maybe in the early stage, like partnerships do work, right? Like where maybe like Google is a big believer of that, right? For example, like they don't want to hire their own sales team, right? In a prosumer model where you want like tons of customers, like via agencies, right? That know how to market and sell to them. So some businesses, but didn't work for us.
I'll tell you Highradius example. Till lot of scale partnership did not work because like Deloitte, KPMG, Ernst & Young, they were not even entertaining. till the time we have reached a certain scale. So we started with banks, but that did not yield very well because the way banks operate is very, very slow space and everything, right? That was not getting us a lot of value. So we failed in that. Second, we went to all these big fours. Big fours have their own processes and everything. Even that did not work out. We were persistent. We went to SIs, system integrators, Genpact, and there is something which is called as Accenture, right? It worked like a magic, but it took 3 years to build them, right? And after we hit like 150, 100, 150 million kind of a scale, right? That is when partnerships started kicking in, and there was like huge inbound. So what happens is, let's say a company like Accenture, right? They go into big enterprises, let's say British Petroleum, and they will say, I will transform your entire CFO org, and that will be a 10-year long project. Okay, and entire order to cash will be given to, let's say, Highradius, and that will be a couple of millions worth. So I think you have to be at certain scale. I have not seen working at early stage. At Sprouts, we are not even trying, right? Because I know this is not the right time, right? But eventually, we would like to partner with companies like HubSpot and publish Sprouts on their marketplaces and everything, and generate some demand. But you should be some credible brand for them to push, because if they are not pushing, right, you will not be able to get good results.
I think just to add, right, so across early stage, I think you want control of your own fate of sales and marketing in your hand. And the fact that, so like Avinash said, right, once you have 10 customers, you make the playbook. Once you have like 20, 30 BDRs, or maybe 20 is too much, but let's say 10 BDRs, you know the sales playbook is working. At that time, you approach a channel, not a partner. And then you can see if the channel guy will sell, right? Because you are essentially outsourcing your sales to somebody, and if you don't know, you don't have a repeatable sales motion yourself, expecting somebody else to be able to sell is not going to give you anything new and no learnings from there, because you are one step away from the customer. Those guys don't have the passion to sell as you have as a founder, right? And they don't have the insights. They can't commit on your behalf. Let's say there is a small feature, if you build, they don't know that you can build it, so they will just sell whatever you have written in the script. There's a bunch of that even in the channel side. Partners is very different. Like partners, you do solutioning. So partners much later. Maybe the question is channels. So channels is also after some time, not in the beginning. Okay, last question. After that, we'll have to close on just on time.
Yeah, right. So these days, no event is kind of complete without speaking about AI. So since that question has not come up, I was just kind of curious to know that with the advent of AI, GTM models, GTM playbook is also fundamentally changing. So in the industry, what all key fundamental changes which you have kind of seen, and how companies are kind of adopting it more so in an early mid stage?
I think Prayank has done a lot of research on this. He's probably spoken to more companies than we have in AI space. You want to take a shot at it?
So I think, you guys are the actual users. We just evaluate. I think one of the first thing is sales and marketing tools themselves are changing, right? So I'll give you two examples. One is, for example, leads which had gone cold, reactivating those leads. No sales guy wants to touch them in the past because somebody said they were not working. We've seen people create agents which basically just send out emails and then start conversing with them. So let's say you are an old company, you have 10,000 leads or maybe 1,000 leads which are dead after, and you want to retouch them because your product has become better. You think they are now in your ICP zone. So how do you make sure that somebody uses it and better use of their time? So AI agent emails, starts chatting, qualifies, and then hands over to the human. So that's one we've seen. Second is improvements on Gong and other such tools. So essentially the sales stack, much better. AI is now available in audio, is much better, is available because of Gen AI. So we are starting to see replacement of those products. Third is, even when you do, let's say, like we are doing this event and we're recording this event, we would typically spend a lot of money in post-production for the video. It should look nice and all of that. We've seen tools which basically just take those videos, cut them up into smaller into smaller videos for social media quickly, like within an hour, and you can go very fast ahead. So those are some examples of that, I would say. And we are now also starting to see some assistants for CROs or sales leaders to answer analytical questions. Like the sales ops stuff which we were discussing, it takes, typically you need a dedicated person who will like take 1 week to 2 weeks to report what happened 2 weeks ago, because they have to do so much analysis for a simple question. So we are starting to see those analytical questions also being answered much faster by sales agents. So that's the kind of stuff. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. There are more assisting sales and marketing, but how it's changing itself, maybe.
I can just add like one other example here, right? Like for all of you founders, you will plan to hire BDRs, SDRs, AEs at some point. So one of the big changes that's happening in the SEP space, right, in outreach, sales software, SDRs, is there's a lot of co-pilot, autopilot capabilities coming because of Gen AI. And the companies, essentially the new age companies like Regi.ai, and there's a bunch of like new age SEPs that have come in that have said, you don't need BDRs to draft emails or SDRs, right? We have all this data, the ABM intent data, everything. You can put that in a template, and the AI, you can tell the AI what tone you want, right? Like what kind of tone. And the AI can learn and automate and send those cadences. So basically there are plays, and you can have different plays, AE play, BDR play, different types of plays, different trigger points, indicating what do you need to do when somebody visits your website? There's a sequence there. What do you need to do when somebody's showing intent and not in your CRM? Another play, right? All of that, I feel in the future in all these tools will be automated to a certain extent, or at least there'll be co-pilot where system is doing everything, BDR is just coming and reviewing. What that means is in the future, you may not need as many BDRs, right? Like that BDRs as a function, you might see lesser folks there when the system helps them. AEs probably is a little, probably will take a little bit more time before, you can replace AEs, right? Or you can help AEs with all of that. And then the bots, right? For inbound leads that come in, you don't need BDRs talking to them. You have AI bots. I met a founder recently who said he's trying to build something where if they come on the website, there's an avatar that starts talking to them and qualifies them, and it asks questions like what a BDR would ask, and then like if everything is good, directly pass it to AE, right, without skipping the BDR step. So there's a lot of innovation. Gen AI is like moving so fast. There's so many, and it's a great time to build companies also, right? Leveraging that. And then I met another company that said like for sales intelligence and intent data and everything, like why do you need to use it via an app interface, right? You can just have a chat interface and say, hey, what are companies showing intent in this? And then it runs all the things in the background and then gives the list of companies. And then you say, now send an email to these people, and then it auto crafts the email and sends it out. So there's a lot of ideas coming and a lot of disruption. You should just stay on top of that trend and see what it means for you as a company.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming. We have food and tea upstairs, food and refreshments for all of you. So please let's proceed there. Thank you. Thanks, Deepak. Thanks, Avinash, for having us. Thank you.